Hey everyone, Steve Kane, owner of South Smart Studio, and this is another episode of Behind the Scenes, How I Got That Shot. Today we're looking at self-portraits. I don't mean a selfie with a camera or phone at the end of your arm like I'm doing here. I'm talking about a true studio quality self-portrait. So the challenges with doing something like that are, how do you know you're in the frame properly, and how do you focus properly when you're not behind the camera to make the adjustments? Let's have a look at some examples.
Periodically, I like to come up with different concepts for my own self-portraits. I get into the studio and challenge myself and have some fun with it. This particular image, shot a number of years ago, it actually became an 8-foot by 12-foot mural on the outside of my studio on the street corner. Every once in a while, I'll create an animated GIF out of a self-portrait. Like I said, I like to have some fun now and then. Here's another quick animated GIF. And for the one I just recently did that I'm going to be talking about, I was wondering, when I look through a camera to take someone's photo, I see them. Do they see me in the camera when I'm taking their picture? So that was the concept for this self-portrait. So let's talk a little bit about how I'm going to do this. It needed to shoot this in two parts with two completely different setups. So setup one is shown here. I needed to mount the camera taking the image on a tripod, keeping it stationary. The camera in the self-portrait is mounted separately. That gave me something to pre-focus on so I could lock my focus down. It also gave me a scenario to rough in my lighting. You can see I had a seat so that once I set the timer, I was able to get into position quickly and comfortably. Couple of details as I was trying this. One was that I had reflections of my key light in the lens. So you can see I've flagged off the bottom part of the studio strobe to reduce the reflections in that lens. And I was also had a bit too much background light or light shining on the background. So I used this large black flag here to block some of the light from my key light from getting on the background. So with the focus locked and the timer, I took a couple of shots. My big thing was when I shoot, I keep both eyes open. It's something I've trained myself to do. It's partially a safety thing. I use one eye for photographing the subject. My other eye is aware of what's happening around me when I'm shooting in public. It's saved me many times where I'm not being bumped into. When people take my camera workshops here in studio, that's something that I try to get them used to doing. So my big thing when I did this was I wanted to make sure that both my eyes were open, one in the camera, the other one shown. I actually needed to only take 3 photos in this setup to get the shot I was looking for. Plus it makes me a little bit more visible. This, after all, is a self-portrait. Second part of the shot was a completely different setup. I switched over to a macro lens and a ring light to capture an up-close shot of my face, of my eyes, is what I was looking for. Again, I've got the seat so I can get into position. I've got this little platform here that I rested my elbows on because I needed to be able to anchor myself in place comfortably in front of the macro lens. Instead of using a timer, I'm now sitting close enough. So I've actually got a release cable here so I could sit in position, use the autofocus of the camera, and grab the shot. I needed to take a handful of images because you can't tell if you're centered in the lens when you're doing this. And I was also planning to see how close could I actually get. So let's have a quick look at some of those images. You can clearly see the ring light reflection in the eyeballs. I only needed a picture of my left eye because that's the one looking through the camera. And the other reason I used a ring light was because it matched the round shape of the lens that I was going to be importing this into. And we could see I got pretty close, some were further away. All I needed was something in focus and well lit of my left eye. So let's get into Photoshop and we'll take a look at the processing that it took to create this image. Again, brought the base image from setup 1 into Photoshop. All I needed to do for the second part was bring an eyeball in from the second setup and place it over the lens. So I'm just going to quickly show you that layer. And to make it more believable, the opacity is only set at 50%, so you see some of the lens coming through. It's not just the second photo imported into the first photo. And when you blend the two together, that was how I created that particular shot.
So that's basically how I got this unique self-portrait. That's a wrap for this episode of Behind the Scenes How I Got That Shot. We'll see you next time.